comida se enfría cuando se descuida.
Eso es grupo Rompe. La doble P. Yayay.
Bebé, llegó nuestro momento. Él te compró un Rolex, pero yo te di mi tiempo. Él tiene mansiones, pero yo en mi apartamento. Te hice sentir cosas que no se las lleva el viento. Baby, lo siento.
Pero el que perdió, mami, tú fuiste la que ganó, Tú eres como un piano que nunca tocó, Y si lejitos nos vamos y así terminamos, tomando, bailando, en una playita sin ropa, mientras su cuerpo va nadando.
Baby, a mí lo que me faltaba eras tú. Tú eres lo más rico que hay en el menú. Dile que se despida, que ya tú estás convencida.
Baby, a mí lo que me faltaba eras tú. Tú eres lo más rico que hay en el menú. Dile que se despida, que ya tú estás convencida.
Y que ya tienes otro hombre. Si quieres dile mi nombre. Que la comida se enfría cuando se descuida.
Dile que tienes otro hombre. Si quieres dile mi nombre. Que la comida se enfría cuando se descuida.
Perdón, es que no sé la razón y metí el corazón en donde no debía. No vi la señal de que me encontraba.
Fui yo el que se ilusionó y aunque no funcionó, yo te entregué mi vida. No me pidas disculpas, que la culpa es mía.
¿Por qué no tengo corazón así? Así como el que te dieron a ti. Porque el que me tocó a mí es frágil. Por eso lo rompiste fácil.
Yo queriendo un corazón así, así como el que te dieron a ti. Porque el que me tocó a mí es frágil. Por eso lo rompiste fácil.
Quisiera ser como tú sin sentimiento.
Lo sé, andar conmigo dicen que no es buena opción, que nomás voy a romperte el corazón.
Pero yo te daría ese lugar que no te han dado. Todas mis fotos las subo contigo a un lado.
Te quiero presumir y darte todo mi amor. Tengo un presentimiento que mi vida es mejor contigo, contigo.
Por favor, bebé, que te cuesta darme un chance. Yo sé muy bien que dicen que soy un desmadre, y es cierto, yo también lo admito, pero también sé quererte bonito.
Porfa, bebé, que te cuesta darme un chance. Yo sé muy bien que dicen que soy un desmadre. Te bajo y tomo poquito, nomás pa' que veas que te necesito.
Así suena Luis R, mi grupo Frontera.
Te quiero presumir y darte todo mi amor. Tengo un presentimiento que mi vida es mejor contigo, contigo.
Por favor, bebé, que te cuesta darme un chance. Yo sé muy bien que dicen que soy un desmadre, y es cierto, yo también lo admito, pero también sé quererte bonito.
Participar hoy en hacer las preguntas para los candidatos, porque es muy importante que nosotros elevemos nuestra voz para que entiendan, ¿verdad?, qué tan importante es nuestra comunidad para avanzar California y esta nación. Así que muchas gracias por todos los que están participando en hacer las preguntas directas, nuestros voluntarios valientes. Así que gracias a todos ustedes. Podemos en esto que estamos aquí esperando, ¿verdad?, que comience nuestro foro. Nomás quería darle una apreciación a María Paula Ochoa, que ustedes la conocen, ¿verdad?, de años y años, que ha sido nuestra, ¿verdad?, voz en muchos de los canales de televisión. Muchas veces ustedes han sido entrevistadas, ¿verdad?, por ella. Así que nomás, ¿cómo te sientes, María?
Pues yo súper emocionada de estar aquí con todos. Yo no sé, muchos de ustedes seguramente los he entrevistado ya en tantos eventos de Chirla que he atendido, manifestaciones, marchas, hasta he bailado con algunos. Una vez me metí hasta en una bronca por estar animándolos cuando estaba haciendo una nota, porque siempre me da mucha energía verlos a ustedes con esa pasión, con que salen a gritar, a manifestarse, cómo creen en la causa, en la misión, y en que algún día tengamos esa anhelada reforma migratoria que llevamos tantos y tantos años peleando. Así que yo me siento súper orgullosa de estar aquí hoy con ustedes. Yo me siento como hasta parte de la familia de Chirla, porque me conocen desde que empecé mi trabajo hace 20 años en Los Ángeles. Y me da mucha felicidad ver gente que viene de tantas partes, de Adelanto, de Porterville, de Victorville, de Van Nuys, donde vivía yo, de Los Ángeles, del monte, tantos lugares tan bonitos.
Yo sé que parece que viene otro camión en camino, ¿verdad?, de allá por, dijeron, el Inland Empire, pero vamos a empezar los que estamos aquí, a ver a quiénes estamos y de qué lugares estamos. A ver, yo veo Kern County, hagan bulla los de Kern County, en el Valle Central.
Eso.
Ajá. A ver, veo una naranjita de Orange County, a ver, hagan una bulla. Sí.
De una naranjita.
De Orange County. Les vamos a preguntar de qué parte de Orange County llegan. De Santa Ana. Excelente, excelente. A ver allá, apenas puedo mirar. Silmar. Ah, qué bien. Y San Fernando. Ok, eso ya nos están practicando. A ver, ¿quiénes? Estoy mirando desde aquí. A ver, repite, ¿quiénes está aquí? ¿Adelanto? ¿De Adelanto? All right, Adelanto, sí. California.
De la Bahía, de San Francisco, de Merced.
De Merced,
vienen de bien lejos.
Bienvenidos, de Merced County, bienvenidos. A ver, veo a Pasadena, un grupo de Pasadena. Okay.
Del Valle de Antílope, veo por allá, también viví en el Valle de Antílope.
A ver, Tulare County.
Muy bien, el Valle Central.
Excelente, Los Ángeles, claro. A ver, estoy mirando desde acá, veo a Porterville.
También
desde el Valle Central de Porterville.
De Long Beach, de Ontario. Yo ya estoy cieguita, ¿no veo? ¿No les digo?
Sí, no, desde aquí.
¿Este de dónde es? Del Monte, pero yo veo un nombre que... Pero ese nombre no lo alcanzo a leer. ¿Qué dice ahí? Stanislao. Eso, de Esperia.
Excelente, excelente.
Eso.
Ok, ahora vamos a ir, ¿verdad?, con nuestros países de origen. Now we're going with our countries of origin. A ver, ¿quién viene de México? Guatemala.
Del Salvador. Eso.
Nicaragua.
Honduras.
La República Dominicana.
¡Eso, Colombia!
Okay. Perú.
Mis compatriotas.
Perú. Ok, viva los de Perú. Excelente. Excelente, excelente. ¿Y de qué otros países que no de de Chile?
Chile, Chile.
Venezuela. Excelente. Bienvenidos todos.
España, olé.
España, Argentina,
Muy bien.
Ecuador,
Sí.
todo Latinoamericana y el Caribe. ¿Quién más? Excelente, excelente. Bueno, estamos esperando, nuestra primera candidata está en camino, la primera con la que vamos a hablar, así que eso nos está retrocediendo un poquito el tiempo, pero está bien porque así estamos más a gusto, estamos todos aquí, ¿verdad? Asegurando, ¿verdad? De representar a nuestra comunidad en este muy importante evento. Ahorita lo estamos haciendo todo en español. Durante el evento todo va a ser en inglés porque queremos asegurar que los candidatos, aunque ciertas preguntas se van a hacer en español y las vamos a traducir, pero van a tener todos sus audífonos para asegurar que tengan traducción simultánea. Y eso es muy importante para asegurar que escuchemos todo lo que tienen que decir los candidatos.
Sorry. Perdón. Este micrófono lo oyen hasta el cielo. Ya, hasta les estaba diciendo que me da miedo pensar algo porque siento que van a oír hasta lo que pienso.
Ajá. Y queremos darles un agradecimiento. Van a ver todo lo que está escrito, es Chirla con Entravision. Entonces ellos son nuestros, en este momento, ¿verdad? Trabajando juntos, ¿verdad? En colectivo para asegurar que la información para nuestra comunidad salga, pues que se difunda, que la información que aquí se va a discutir y de la cual vamos a platicar, pues que no nomás se quede en este cuarto. Ustedes lo van a platicar corriendo la voz, pero también vamos a tener ¿verdad? El equipo de Entravision que también va a difundir esta información y lo va a difundir a nivel simultáneo. Así que es muy importante, ¿verdad? Que nosotros, ¿verdad? Esta información que estamos teniendo, podamos compartirla, porque es tan importante. Hoy tuve la oportunidad de platicar con nuestros líderes jóvenes de las universidades, qué tan importante es que la persona que se está postulando para este puesto y que gane, va a tener mucho que ver sobre el futuro de nuestra comunidad. Entonces, que ustedes han decidido dedicar su sábado para este propósito es muy importante. Sí, ya les dijimos que me acaban de recordar, estamos hablando de si ustedes necesitan interpretación, si necesitan los equipos de traducción, por favor, está una mesa que ustedes pueden recoger sus audífonos para que de esa manera asegurar que están escuchando todo traducido durante este evento.
Angélica está hablando de Entravision. Yo trabajo para Entravision, por eso estoy aquí hoy yo en representación de Entravision. Entravision es la compañía por la que se transmite las emisoras de radio donde está el Piolín. Yo supongo que muchos de ustedes conocen el Piolín, ¿no? Una gran celebridad de la radio en los Estados Unidos. También muchas de las señales de Univisión pasan a través de la compañía de Entravision. Yo trabajo para Univisión en San Diego, en el noticiero local de San Diego como presentadora de noticias. De otras partes, en Las Vegas también la señal de Univisión pasa a través de Entravision. Entonces, somos una compañía muy comprometida con los medios de comunicación que son muy importantes en todas las campañas electorales. Nosotros estamos a cargo de informar y educar a la comunidad sobre lo que dicen todos los candidatos, quiénes son y dónde están, para que ustedes tengan un voto mucho más educado al momento de llegar a las urnas. Así que bueno, los invito a conectarse con Entravision a través de nuestras redes sociales, de Facebook, Instagram, X, y también a través de las señales de Univisión en San Diego, Las Vegas y los otros mercados y las emisoras de radio a nivel nacional. Y aquí estoy yo, su servidora, para cualquier cosa en la que les pueda ayudar.
Y nomás les vamos a dar unas cuantas instrucciones de aquí, ¿verdad? Y vemos que más compañeros están llegando. Todos los que van a hacer preguntas van a llegar hasta aquí, a este micrófono. para cuando nosotros les llamemos su nombre, estén preparados, ¿verdad?, para entrar aquí y hacer la pregunta desde aquí. Así que muchas gracias, se me hace que estoy hablándoles aquí a este grupo de aquí. Muchas gracias por ser voluntarios para hacer las preguntas hoy. ¿Un minuto? Ok. Ahorita voy a hacer un testeo de hablar inglés para asegurar que ustedes están escuchando la traducción de una manera bien, ¿verdad?, en este momento. Así que voy a empezar. My name is Angelica Salas. I am the president of the Chirla Action Fund. I am so excited to be here with you all. This is such an important event in which we get to have a conversation with three people who seek to be U.S. Senator for the state of California. And so these individuals could be individuals who represented on some of the most important issues in our community. But most importantly, we're having a conversation about immigration today and its impact both on immigrant communities and the Latino community. So welcome all. ¿Escucharon bien? ¿No? Excelente. Por eso hicimos esto, ¿verdad? ¿No? Nada. Ok. Ok. Canal 8. Todos pónganse en el canal 8 para traducción. Ok. Ok. Ok, parece que están acabando van a bajar para empezar a hacer la traducción. Entonces, falsa alarma, todavía ahorita vamos a hacer un cuanto de práctica, pero durante el tiempo que estamos aquí, si ustedes no están escuchando bien, por favor déjenles saber. Aquí, ¿dónde están? Levanten las manos los organizadores que están sentados con ustedes. The organizers, raise your hand. Oh, Janet, thank you for representing. Okay, on this side, talk to Janet if your equipment isn't working. Hablen con Janet si no está trabajando el equipo. Organizers on this side, los organizadores. Okay, Ana. Okay, Ana está acá. Le dicen a Ana. Aquí quien está en el medio. Who's in the middle?
Entiendo, tranquila.
Okay. Katia. Okay, beautiful. How are we doing on time?
She's right here. Yeah, we're going on.
Okay. Parece que ya llegó. Okay. Okay, could you give us, are you going to be the one to point us out? We start?
Yes.
Okay.
No sé por qué estoy como con la...
Aquí hay un agua.
Sí, no, acá la tengo yo también la mía, pero no sé por qué.
Okay, beautiful.
¿Será los nervios?
Y vamos a comenzar en un momento, así que si pueden todos tomar asiento, lo apreciaríamos.
Jamás será
The people united
Bravo.
Muy bien, mucha energía. Eso necesitamos, energía contagiosa.
¿Verdad? Hechos. Y muchas gracias, veo muchas caras conocidas, muchas personas que han ido con nosotros a Sacramento, a Washington, D.C., que han cabildeado para asegurar que este estado sea pro-inmigrante. Así que dense un gran aplauso por una vez estar aquí al frente de nuestra lucha pro-inmigrante.
Vamos a comenzar y vamos a darle la bienvenida a Angélica Salas, directora de Chirla, y a Ana Paula, María Paula, conductora de este evento.
Muchas gracias. Voy a pararme las dos, ¿verdad? Aquí estamos una vez más. We just want to say good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angélica Salas, and I am the president of the Chirla Action Fund. And it is with incredible wonder and pleasure that I introduce my co-moderator today, Maria Paula Ochoa.
Thank you very much, Angelica. So as we were speaking, thank you very much, thank you. As you were saying earlier, my name is Maria Paula Ochoa. I am Entravision's Univision's news anchor in San Diego. And it's a real pleasure for me to be here today, joining you in this forum and joining Angelica as my co-moderator for the event.
Thank you so much. It's going to be really fun. The next thing that we're going to do is actually watch a video as to just give us a little, set us in the context as to why we are here today. So please.
Hello, my name is Angelica Salas, and I am the president of the Chirla Action Fund. And with Chirla, we formed the Immigrant Political Power Project. It is important for us to understand that it's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder, which means we have to work harder and connect with more voters than we did during the primary. The Immigrant Political Power Project is going to quadruple the number of individuals that we contact in the general election. It matters to us that we are able to advance the candidacy and win with individuals who are actually going to support our values, are going to respect our community, and are going to pass and implement policies that support the immigrant community. The one thing I also want to say is we need you. I'm inviting you to be part of the Immigrant Political Power Project, a project of the Chirla Action Fund and Chirla. Get involved. Be part of a democracy. And it doesn't matter if you are not a citizen of the United States. Civic engagement is not relegated to immigration status. So we have a lot of people who can't cast a vote, but they're calling those who can. There are a lot of people who can't vote, but they are knocking on doors. If you are able to lend some of your precious time and talent, we encourage you to become a volunteer and advance democracy and advance a pro-immigrant agenda.
That was
Thank
nice.
you. Now, that was done after the primaries and after the election of 2022, and we said that we were going to be back here and working in 2024 and for the election of 2024, and we're starting early. Right now, a year from election day, we are here preparing ourselves to be present and active. I am so excited to welcome you to our 2023 Winning California Latino Immigrant Senate Candidate Forum. I would like to start by thanking everyone that made this possible. And there were so many of you that we're not going to be able to name everybody. But I want to begin with our Chirla Action Fund board members. So I wanted to say thank you to Horacio Arroyo, to Marcelo Gaete, to Sam Jamal, Mary Oaks, Seriun Yilma, Myron Paez, Xiomara Corpeño, Mayra Alvarez. These are all individuals who have worked really, really hard to ensure that the Chirla Action Fund, since its inception, have moved forward. So I want to say thank you so much. I also want, yes, give them a round of applause. And I also want to thank our staff, our incredible staff that put this event together. And I especially want to say thank you to our lead organizers for today, our political director, Fatima Flores Lagunas, and our director of executive affairs, Hernandez. I just want to really say thank you to them as they provided the leadership today to advance on this work. And all the marketing and our communications team just say thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course, I want to say thank you to Pedro Trujillo, who is our director of organizing, because all our organizers, because we wouldn't be here without them. And then I also want to say thank you to all the candidate campaigns. Thank you so much for saying yes to our invitation to be here with us, to the staff, and most importantly, to the candidates themselves. For saying yes, we want to have a conversation with the immigrant community that powers California. So thank you so much. And then Entravision. Thank you, Entravision, for being a partner for this important event. And each and every one of you for being here. Thank you for all your hard work. I also want to take this time to welcome all our online audience. We're live streaming our event on Chirla Action Fund's Facebook page, as well as Entravision's various Univision pages throughout California. Chirla Action Fund, alongside Chirla, we've been part of advancing California, making California a pro-immigrant state, a state that's progressive, a state that values all the people who live in the state, who work hard every day. And so it is important for us that we continue our grassroots organizing, that we continue to ensure that our community is part of this important process. And when we talk about democracy, in order for democracies to work, we all have to be part of it. Is that right? In 2024, Californians will have an opportunity to elect the next senator from California to represent us in Washington, D.C. The Chirla Action Fund is committed to informing our communities about the positions of those running to ensure we support a candidate who will champion the fight for immigrant justice in Congress. As the fastest growing voting bloc in California, immigrants and Latinos will play a critical role in shaping the future of our state and our nation. The upcoming elections in 2024 will be a key opportunity to elect representatives who champion our issues and share our values. That is why today we have over 350 Action members, staff, and partner organizations representing our communities from all across California. And we are here representing almost every county, lots of different cities, but all showing that together we make California strong. So give yourselves once more a big round of applause for coming from far and wide. You're also giving yourselves an applause because you are ready to knock on doors, hit the pavement this election cycle for candidates who will support our pro-immigrant agenda. And I just want to say thank you to all our members who make this possible. Thank you for traveling and being here with us today. Now, I would like to pass the mic over to my co-moderator and host, Maria Paula Ochoa, who will share more details about our forum today. And also just to tell us a little bit more about some of the candidates that we're going to be hearing from today.
Gracias, Angélica. Thank you very much for you guys to be here. Muchísimas gracias que están aquí hoy, esta mañana, acompañándonos. As part of Entravision, of course, it's my duty to say that we are honored to partner with Chirla Fund to collaborate in events like this, the California Forum today, which is important for us to inform and educate our audiences about the importance of voting in the coming campaign, from the primaries in March to the general election in November. We believe that there is a simple equation like education plus information equals participation, and we are committed into motivating, encouraging whoever can vote, and to go out there and vote. I know many of you perhaps cannot vote, but we are the voice behind the ones who can vote for us, for the candidates who we elect to really do what we are electing them to do. I'm sorry if I get with my trabalenguas aquí, but my English is not my first language, and sometimes I really get nervous when I speak English, especially in front of an important audience. So you can count with Entravision tireless work into informing through all our platforms, digital platforms, TV stations, radio station, to inform about all the promises of the candidates, who the candidates are. So later on, you guys can hold them accountable for what they say they were gonna do, to actually do it once they are on elected. So today is gonna be an easy dynamic. We are gonna have our candidates here sitting with Angelica and me in that empty chair that you see that right there. And some of you are gonna come up to the podium and ask the questions that you really need to ask, for the hard questions, I hope, so they can really be put on the spot and say what they need to say, because they are gonna be occupying a very important chair in Congress. And that's pretty much it. We are gonna be making sure that they answer the questions, and that's it, right?
That's right.
Para mí estoy muy nerviosa.
No, está bien.
Ustedes hablan todos español.
Está bien. And I think we have I think you're going to introduce our first candidate, right?
I am going to introduce our first candidate. She's Katie Porter. She's a representative from the District 47, which encompasses some of Orange County cities. And is she ready to come?
Yes, I believe so. So let's welcome her with a big round of applause.
Hi, Katie. Nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you.
So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate your presence and your drive from your usual grounds, which is Orange County, right here to Santa Clarita. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our questions from the audience. We have members from all over the state of California who are here with you. And so our first question is going to be from one of our one of our members with the longest, I would say, membership at Chirla, who has been, and I've known her for almost over 25 years, fighting for immigration reform from Los Angeles. And so she'll be asking our first question. So Andrea Guadarrama,
Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Andrea Guadarrama. Soy residente de Los Ángeles. Tengo 35 años viviendo en Estados Unidos. Soy inmigrante indocumentada, originaria de la Ciudad de México.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Guadarrama, and I am resident of LA. I have lived in the United States for 35 years. I am an undocumented immigrant from Mexico City.
Tengo 3 hijas y 7 nietos, y yo he trabajado de babysitter por 15 años. He limpiado casas por otros 15 años. Vine a los Estados Unidos para darle una mejor vida a mis hijas. Mis hijas se quedaron en México, mientras yo ahorraba para podernos reunir aquí en los Estados Unidos. Fue un proceso de años para poder estar juntas.
I have 3 daughters and 7 grandchildren. I have worked as a babysitter for 15 years and as a cleaner for another 15 years. I came to the United States to give my daughters a better life. My daughter stayed behind in Mexico while I saved so we could all be together here in the United States. It was a 5-year process to be able to be together again.
Con Chirla y la Fundación de Acciones de Chirla he participado como miembro activo durante 24 años. Todo ese tiempo hemos luchado por una reforma migratoria justa. Vivimos momentos de esperanza con el presidente Bush, luego con el presidente Obama, pero solo ilusiones, ya que aún seguimos sin un camino a la ciudadanía. Yo tengo 68 años y no estoy para otra desilusión.
I have been an active member here with Chirla and Chirla Action Fund for 24 years now. During that time, we've fought for a comprehensive and fair immigration reform. We lived moments of hope with President Bush and then with President Obama, but it was all a disappointment that still goes on because we don't have a pathway to citizenship. I am now 68 years old, and I can't take another disappointment.
Con el presidente Trump tuvimos que vivir 4 años bajo el temor de la deportación, y eso no es una manera de vivir.
With President Trump, we lived with the fear of deportation for 4 years, and that is no way to live.
Han sido 3 décadas que no puedo ver a mis seres queridos, y no soy la única que tiene esa mala experiencia. Somos millones y millones, y si es que ganar el puesto de senadora, espero que usted nos apoye con urgencia, ya que millones de personas estamos afectadas. Gracias.
It's been 3 decades of not being able to see my loved ones, and I'm not the only one having that experience. We're millions, and if you get to be senator, I hope that you will give us an urgent support because millions of people are impacted.
Señora Porter, actualmente usted es copatrocinadora del proyecto de la ley del registro, que proporcionaría un camino directo a la ciudadanía para personas como yo y millones de personas más. También es importante notar que la propuesta no lastime a nuestra comunidad inmigrante.
Ms. Porter, currently you're co-sponsor of the registry bill that would provide a direct pathway to citizenship for people like me and millions more. It's also important to note that the bill doesn't harm our immigrant community.
Mi pregunta es, si es elegida para el Senado, copatrocinadora, la versión del Senado del proyecto de ley del registro del senador Padilla. Además, ¿cómo defendería el proyecto de ley de registro y ayudará a obtener apoyo para asegurarse que se apruebe en el Senado?
My question is, if you're elected to the Senate, will you co-sponsor Senator Padilla's version of the registry bill? And how will you defend the registry bill and help gather support to make sure it's approved in the Senate?
Thank you so very much. I want to start by saying good afternoon, Chirla members, and thank you so much for all of your time, your dedication, and for being in this fight year after year. So thank you very much for having me, and thank you so much for sharing your story. I think one of the things her story illustrates is that Washington, now for 30 and 40 years, has kicked the can on immigration. It's happened under Democrats and Republicans. It's happened with both political parties. I haven't been in Washington for decades, being part of the problem. I have only ever known a nation and a California where immigrants were a huge part of our economy and our society. And we need laws and policies that reflect that. I am very, very proud to be a co-sponsor of Senator Padilla, of Senator Padilla's Registry Act. I think it is incredibly important to provide that kind of holistic, comprehensive approach to immigration. What we have seen is immigration policies coming out of Washington that are not reflecting the experience of immigrant families, many of whom have mixed status, who have different pathways under current law. They're dividing immigrants and immigrant families sometimes against each other. So one of the things I love about the approach of the Registry Act is that it recognizes no matter how you got here, if you are here and contributing, we want you as a U.S. citizen, full stop. Before I ran for Congress, I was a consumer protection advocate, and one of the things I saw time and time again was how government sometimes creates laws and corporations push for laws that are so complicated that everyday people can't even get the help they're supposed to get. And I think we see this in immigration. Policies and pathways to visas or citizenship that are so expensive and so complicated that you need a lawyer and there's tricks and traps waiting for you. One of the great things about the Registry Act is its simplicity. It's a system that every immigrant family can understand and be able to take advantage of without being tripped up by all those complications and roadblocks. Look, let's be real. Immigrants have always been the future of America. That statement is as true as we sit here today as it was at the founding of this country. So we need to recognize that our economy and our society, if we want it to thrive, if we want to be able to compete globally, if we want to achieve our American promises of equality and justice, we need to provide a fair, equitable, and speedy pathway to citizenship, and that's the Registry Act.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea, wherever you went. Thank you very much. Espero que esto conteste su pregunta. Perfect. So we're going to have our next guest. His name is Jesus de la Mora. Where are you, Jesus? So, Ms. Porter, Jesus de la Mora is a member of the California Dream Network and from Chirla Action Fund's College Leadership Program. And he has his testimony and a question for you.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon. My name is Jesus de la Mora, a four-year student major in mechanical engineering at the University of California, Merced. I'm undocumented and also part of the LGBT community. Both of my parents are farm workers, and I have always been hopeful of an immigration policy that will allow me to fix their status in this country. But as time passes, we only see things going south. I arrived in the US when I was 13 years old. I was too late to qualify for the DACA program. At school, teachers did not want to talk about the immigration topic, and some teachers did not allow students to discuss it among each other. However, my friends and I felt the need to advocate and make our voices heard. This is why I am also involved with the Chirla Action Fund. I am not an stranger to arduous work. I grew up among scarcity in a low-income household that was maintained by agricultural work. When I was little, it was hard not to compare myself with other kids that had better toys or clothes. My dad taught me to be humble and thankful for what I had, and always reminded me that I should be doing my best in school so I can have a better life. As a non-native English speaker, my intellectual capacity was often questioned by teachers and classmates. Regardless, I applied for universities in the CSU and UC systems. Being accepted to UC Merced proved me that being confident and speaking for myself was worth it. I believe in God, and from life experiences, I believe He has taught me to be resilient and hopeful for the future. In the near future, I plan to be an advocate and support for queer undocumented immigrants to love themselves and be resilient by working along nonprofit organizations whose goals are to create a more inclusive society where everyone feels safe. Question. I'll follow by asking you the question. How do you find California values, and how these include immigrants? So, and the following question it will be, can you describe 2 ways you will lead as our next California senator, working alongside Senator Padilla to ensure Congress works to pass meaningful legislation that moves the needle on immigration? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. One of the things that these 2 stories illustrate is the multi-generational harm now of Congress's failure to pass meaningful, appropriate, helpful immigration reform. We've just heard from 2 people, almost a generation apart, 2 generations apart, who are both suffering at the hands of Washington. And I think their 2 stories really illustrate, decade after decade, how bad this problem has been. The question about California values, let me start by stating very, very clearly to this audience what California values are not. I am a very, very straight shooter, so let me tell you, California values are not demonizing human beings based on where they are from or how they arrived in this country. California values are not vilifying entire communities, preying upon people's fears about safety and well-being and economic security to pit people against each other. California values are not the kind of hateful rhetoric that we saw from Pete Wilson and Donald Trump. And they are sure as heck not policies like Prop 187 that hold back immigrants from continuing to thrive in this country. So what are California values? California values are recognizing the dignity and potential of every single person who wants to be part of our amazing country. California values are investing in those people through progressive policies, policies that recognize education is the potential for people, the housing, the healthcare, that we cannot have immigrants continue to thrive in this country if we do not open up the programs that help them thrive to them. So families, regardless of immigration status, documented or undocumented immigrants, should have access to policies like financial, higher education and financial aid, to policies including availability of childcare, to policies like SNAP, Medicaid, CHIP. That's what it means to be a Californian, to me, is to recognize the potential of every human being and to invest in them.
Thank you so much for that answer, and thank you, Jesus, for sharing your story.
Before we go on, I'm so sorry, but
No.
I want to go to the following question, that what do you do in Congress to pass a meaningful legislation that moves the needle for immigration? I don't think that was answered, I'm sorry.
No, that's perfect.
So we discussed already my strong support for the Registry Act and why I think that is the best way to go. I do not want to see us continue to favor certain immigrants over others and pit immigrants against each other. I think there's too much injustice already in our immigration system, in which some people from some nations who enter under some circumstances are given pathways that others are not. So I really like the Registry Act approach, but I think it has to be paired with making sure that people are able to get the full benefits to thrive. So it's not enough to give people status if we don't also give them access to the programs that they need, including things like financial aid to be able to do well. One of the things I fought for in Congress was free COVID testing for every American. One of the benefits of that is it meant that every American, including immigrants regardless of status, were able to get free COVID testing. And so I think that's an example of recognizing when we fight for inclusive policies, we are including immigrants regardless of status in the ability of getting those benefits.
Thank you. So now I would like to introduce Hannah. Hannah is a member of the Wise Up Chirla's Youth Leadership Program in our high schools.
Good afternoon, Representative Katie Porter. My name is Hannah Martinez. I'm currently a senior attending STEM Academy of Hollywood, located in Los Angeles. It is an honor to be here today and represent other high school students from Los Angeles. The community I was raised in is overflowing with love, drive, and ambition. It's filled with ranchera and banda music, traditional meals, and countless celebrations that honors our achievements as Latinx. It's filled with hardworking immigrant families like my parents, who work hard to give their children better opportunities. My parents work endlessly to provide for my family, working long hours for little pay to support us. As undocumented immigrants, my parents have sacrificed everything for a better life. They pay taxes, bills, and contribute as much as they can to the economy in this country. They fight for my dreams and my future, but no one else fights for them. This is why I'm here. This February, I'll be turning 18 years old. I will finally have the opportunity to vote, to make my voice count, and to fight for the rights of those who cannot vote. I understand the importance of voting. In the past, I haven't had the opportunity to vote, but that didn't stop me from participating civically. A few weeks before my local election, I registered to be a student poll worker. I spent 3 full days ensuring that voters, especially the Spanish-speaking ones, had everything they needed to cast their vote. I was one of 2 Spanish-speaker poll workers located at my polling site. I had the honor and joy to help over 100 Spanish-speaking voters in that election. This upcoming election is just as important. I want my community to have a voice, and so I've orchestrated a voting campaign where the entire senior class at my school will have the opportunity and resources they need to register to vote. My peers are not only voting for their future, but for their families' rights and dreams. As future voters, we would like to know your plans to support immigrants in California. Undocumented immigrants sacrifice themselves for their families and the greater good during the COVID-19 pandemic. They also pay billions in local, state, and federal taxes each and every year. In California alone, USC estimates that this number is close to $4 billion just for local and state taxes. The UCLA Latino Policy and Politics Institute and the White House both agree. Providing permanent protection to these same immigrants would be even more beneficial to California and the country, adding over $1 trillion to the national gross domestic product over 10 years. My question is, what will you do to lift up the economic contributions of immigrants and use these as a moral and economic argument to push for immigration reform and an update to registry? And how can the federal government better include immigrants in our healthcare, education, and housing sector, regardless of immigration status? Thank you.
Thank you. If you could wait on stage for just 1 second, I have something that I want to personally say to you. Not only when you turn 18 will you be able to vote, but you will be able to run for office. And I don't know how many of you know this, but there are not a lot of women, there are not a lot of Latinas, there are not a lot of moms in our government at any level. And the most important thing that I can say to you personally before I turn to your question is, will you please someday consider running for office?
I'll think about it. Thank you.
I will be with you every step of the way if that's what you choose. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
With regard to her question, it is really, really important that we make this economic case forcefully. So the question asked was, what will I do to make the case for the economic contributions of immigrants? I'll tell the truth. That's all I have to do, is tell the truth, because the numbers, the statistics, the hard work, the individual stories of what immigrants do for our economy should speak for themselves. And the fact that they are not, that we have not made this argument forcefully, is because too many in Washington are afraid to speak the truth, and I am not. Our economy cannot thrive without the contributions of immigrants, both those with and without status. Every immigrant family contains hardworking, amazing, talented, dedicated people, and every American needs to recognize that we all thrive when our economy thrives, and we cannot achieve that without the contributions of immigrants. Immigrant workers cannot make those contributions if we don't in turn give them what they need to thrive. That means healthcare for all. I support Medicare for all because it means everyone gets equal opportunities and abilities to receive affordable, quality health care. It doesn't divide certain workers, and some get A+ health care and some get F health care. It means everybody gets the same quality health care. I was a college professor at the University of California, Irvine. I had the ability to teach immigrant students, both those who were documented, undocumented, those with DACA, those who were born outside of these deadlines that divide us, and I have seen firsthand that these immigrant students are absolutely the reason that our University of California, Cal State, and community college systems are the finest in the United States, and we're not going to continue to have them be the finest in the world if we don't keep the doors open and make it affordable for every immigrant, regardless of status, to pursue the education that they deserve. The last point I want to make is about housing affordability. We talked earlier about what it means to me to be a Californian, what California values are. California values include making sure that the people who want to build a home and a life here can afford to do that. And housing affordability is holding us back. I launched my campaign on the issue of housing affordability. Before I ran for Congress, I spent time helping families who were cheated into predatory, bad mortgage and home loans, and cheated back on the way out with unfair evictions and foreclosures. California needs a big investment from the federal government in housing, And it must be available, those housing benefits, whether it's rental vouchers or opportunities to pursue homeownership, must be available to everyone who is contributing to California's economy, regardless of status.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Hannah, for those questions. Now we're going to have our next member. His name is Gianfranco. He's one of our newest members in the Chirla Action Fund. And here he is.
Sí. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Gianfranco, nací en Perú. Tengo 4 meses de entrar aquí a los Estados Unidos. En Perú trabajaba haciendo labores sociales. Durante la pandemia ayudé a 400 familias en la comida y en recursos para sus hogares. Decidí salir de Perú porque sufrí amenazas. Primero sufrí amenazas y hostigamientos hacia mí y luego hacia mi familia. En ese tiempo mi esposa estaba embarazada y por precaución a eso decidimos buscar asilo en un país. Lo pensamos muy bien y decidimos estar en Estados Unidos, porque averiguamos que Estados Unidos era un país donde se respeta mucho las leyes, donde hay orden y hay mayor seguridad.
Good afternoon. My name is Gianfranco, and I was born in Peru. It had been 4 months since I had come to the United States. In Peru, I used to do social work. During the pandemic, I helped prepare food and resources for 400 people. I decided to leave Peru because I was threatened. At first, the threats and harassments were against me, then against my family. At that time, my wife was pregnant, and we were cautious because the threats were very serious. That is when we had to make the decision to seek asylum in another country. We thought about it and decided to go to the United States. We wanted to go to the United States because we think that it is a place where laws are respected, where there is structure and safety.
El viaje a Perú, a la frontera de México y Estados Unidos, duró alrededor de 3 semanas. Caminamos mucho porque no teníamos dinero para el taxi y había días que ayunamos. Llegamos a la frontera de Estados Unidos con $20. Migración detuvo a mi madre por 5 días, detuvo a mi esposa por 15 días y yo estuve 1 mes y medio en el centro de detención de migraciones, esperando a que evaluaran que mi caso sea elegible para pedir asilo en este país. Mi hija nació aquí en los Estados Unidos. Por el estrés y el cansancio físico, mi hija nació a los 7 meses. Desafortunadamente, yo seguía en el centro de detención cuando ella nació.
The trip from Peru to the border between Mexico and the United States took about 3 weeks. We had to walk a lot since we had no money for a taxi or a bus. We arrived at the border of the United States with only $20 in our pockets. Immigration detained my mother for 5 days. They detained my wife for 15 days. I was in detention centers for a month and a half while immigration agents reviewed our eligibility for asylum. My daughter was born here in the United States. Because of my wife's stress and physical exhaustion, my daughter was born at 7 months. Unfortunately, I was still in the detention center when she was born.
Después de salir del centro de detención, tuve la oportunidad de reunirme con mi hija y esposa. Aunque no tengo familia en California, decidimos venir aquí, porque habíamos averiguado que era uno de los mejores estados del país, donde hay mayor oportunidad y escuchan a los inmigrantes. Mi meta es crecer como persona, ser útil en este país y ayudar en el crecimiento del país.
After I left the detention center, I had the opportunity to get reunited with my daughter and wife. Even though I do not have any family in California, we decided to come here because we heard that it is one of the best states in the country, because there are plenty of opportunities and immigrants are heard. My goal is to grow as a person and to be useful to this country. I want to contribute to the state and to this country.
La pregunta, el derecho a buscar asilo en los Estados Unidos es una base de la legislación interna y de los compromisos internacionales, pero es restringido a diario. ¿Qué hará para revertir esta tendencia, incluso ayudando a financiar los esfuerzos de las comunidades locales para refugiar con dignidad?
My question is, The right to seek asylum in the United States is based on integral legislation and international commitments, but it is restricted every day. What will you do to reverse this trend, even helping fund the efforts of local communities like welcoming with dignity?
First, I want to personally welcome you to the United States. And I want to apologize on behalf of our country that you did not receive, you, your family, and now your daughter did not receive the kind of welcome that you deserved. Asylum is a legal right, period. And I'm not going to mince words. The United States is breaking the law. It's hard to say. I love our country, and I know you all do. But if we can't hold our own country to account, then what kind of Americans and future Americans are we? What President Biden and President Trump have done with regard to asylum is dishonoring this nation's history and our future and the promise of a better future for this country. I condemned Title 42, and I saw firsthand many times its harmful consequences. The people who were being held in Mexico in dangerous situations, including folks like our LGBTQ people who were seeking asylum, who were not safe in Mexico. I think we need to understand that asylum means keeping our promises to the people of this world. The United States cannot lead on the world stage and lead on human rights unless we are showing with our own actions toward migrants, refugees, and asylees the very rights that we say that we fight for. So I think we need to reverse the policies that we've had that are restricting and making it more difficult for people to seek asylum. Under Title 42, there was literally no place, no line, no person from the United States at that border that was willing to help you come in and find a process other than being detained. And so I think we need to honor our promise to the world and our promise to this country and to other Americans. And I think every American needs to be part of the fight to recognize that asylum is a legal right and that we dishonor our own values when we don't champion it.
No se escucha. Siento que la vida ha dado una nueva oportunidad para mí y mi familia y queremos hacerla aquí en este país. Que queremos crecer aquí y contribuir al crecimiento del país.
So I believe that life has given us a new opportunity, and we want to take that opportunity as we are here in the States.
So, going with his follow-up question, what will you do to reverse the trend of that unwelcoming receivement that they get when they get as asylum seekers to the United States?
Yep. What we need to do is affirmatively put in place policies that help asylees and asylum seekers make an adjustment to the United States. You mentioned that I come from Orange County, California. That's where I live. And Orange County has a long, painful, and sometimes difficult and ugly history with regard to immigration. But we are changing, and we are recognizing what has long been true, that we are all better when we welcome people to this country. So I think that the rest of the United States should follow the lead of Orange County and create an Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs to provide resettlement resources, information, housing, job opportunities. We need to follow the law and allow people to come, but it goes beyond that. We have to set them up to deliver on their talents and their hopes and their dreams by giving them the opportunities and the connection to the resources that they need. So I think it's two things. It is to honor our legal commitment, but then to make that legal commitment not an empty promise of opportunity, but a real one by connecting people to job opportunities, education opportunities, housing services, cultural connections, so that they can thrive from day one of when they're able to cross the border and come to this country.
We came to our last question. Now, we want to say thank you so much for answering the questions of our members. We now offer you your closing remarks to the folks who are here and also those who are listening to us through our live stream.
I want to say thank you to everyone who is here today, who is watching, and who has and will be involved with Chirla. We cannot honor the promise of immigration and the hope that it provides to people and the benefits that it provides to our country if we're not listening to immigrants. My job is to partner with you, to advocate with you, to listen to the kinds of policies and changes that you need to be successful. I didn't go to Washington to double down on the failed policies of the past, and that is so true about immigration. 20, 30 years now of promising and failing to deliver. I went to Washington not to follow those rules that leave immigrants behind, that deprioritize their needs. I went to Washington to rewrite the rules so that immigrants can get the opportunities that they deserve for status and to thrive as Americans. I do not take corporate PAC money, donations from corporations, because I see that they are leaving ordinary Americans, including immigrant families, behind. I went to Washington to fight for regular people, for people who work hard for their family and want the opportunity to take care of them. I would be honored to have your support and your endorsement and look forward to our continued partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Well, we now have our next candidate who is seeking to be our next U.S. Senator for the state of California. Please help me welcome Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is the current congressional representative for the 30th District in California, which encompasses parts of Los Angeles County. And I did see some folks from Pasadena, and that is the current representative there, so I know that you're here. So please help me welcome now Congressman Adam Schiff, running for U.S. Senator for the state of California. Well, thank you so much for being here and for joining us at this important conversation. We will have a very similar format as we did with Katie Porter. We are going to have members who are going to be asking you questions. And so we're going to start right now with Norma Miranda, who is one of our members from the Chirla Action Fund. And I will pass it over to Maria Paula Ochoa to introduce her.
She's a member of the Chirla Foundation from 11 years now, and she's coming all the way from San Fernando Valley. Thank you very much, Norma.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Norma Miranda y soy oriunda del Perú y vivo en el Valle de San Fernando por 24 años. Soy orgullosamente trabajadora del hogar, cuido de los tesoros más preciados de mis empleadores, sus hijos. He trabajado con familias por décadas, he cuidado niños desde los 6 meses de edad y ahora son adolescentes y adultos, a los cuales he cuidado cada mañana preparando sus almuerzos. Los he llevado a la escuela, hemos caminado a sus hogares. Los vecinos de la cuadra me han preguntado varias veces si soy la abuelita de ellos. Y simplemente le contesto que soy su nani, ya que siempre han visto el amor y paciencia que siempre les he brindado a ellos. Siempre los he cuidado como si fueran mis hijos propios. Yo emigré a este país para proveer un futuro mejor para mi hijo y mi familia, a quienes no he podido dar un beso y un abrazo desde el año en que llegué en 1999.
So good afternoon. My name is Norma Miranda. I'm originally from Peru, and I live in the San Fernando Valley for 24 years. I'm a proud homemaker, and I take care of the most precious treasures of my employers, their children. I have worked with families for decades. I have looked after a 6-month-old children who are now teenagers and adults. I have taken care of them every morning, prepared their lunches. I've taken them to school, and I've walked together back to their home. Sometimes the neighbors ask me if I'm their grandma. I simply answer that I'm their nanny. They've always seen the love and patience I have for them. I've always cared for them as if they were my own children. I immigrated to this country to provide a better future for my son and my family, whom I have not been able to kiss or hug since 1999, the year I came here.
Tengo más de 2 décadas con la esperanza de poder trabajar sin miedo para poder seguir contribuyendo a mi hogar, a la comunidad y al país. Mi esposo es un ciudadano naturalizado y es votante en nuestro hogar. Y aún así no ha sido fácil poder arreglar mi estatus migratorio. Me uní a Chirla y a Chirla Action Fund hace 11 años cuando me involucré en la lucha por una legalización. En este camino de lucha hemos enterrado a nuestros compañeros indocumentados. Esto nos impacta emocionalmente. Le pido, si usted es electo al Senado de California, lidere hasta lograr obtener los votos necesarios de los senadores para aprobar la ley del registro HR 1511.
I have been hoping for more than 2 decades that I will be able to work without fear, to be able to contribute to my home, the community, and the country. My husband is a naturalized citizen, and he is the one that can vote in our home. And still, it hasn't been easy to sort out the immigration status. I joined Chirla and Chirla Action Fund 11 years ago when I got involved in the fight for legalization. In this fight, we've buried our undocumented partners, and this affects us emotionally. I ask you, if you get elected to the Senate of California, to lead the efforts until you get the necessary votes to approve the registry bill HR 1511.
Señor Chip, actualmente usted es copatrocinador del proyecto de ley de registro que proporcionaría un camino directo a la ciudadanía para personas como yo y millones de personas más. También es importante notar que la propuesta no lastima a nuestra comunidad inmigrante.
Mr. Schiff, currently you co-sponsor the registry bill, which would provide a direct pathway to citizenship for people like me and millions more. It is also important to note that the bill doesn't harm our immigrant community.
Mi pregunta es, si es usted elegido para el Senado, ¿copatrocinaría la versión del Senado del proyecto de ley de registro del senador Padilla? Además, ¿cómo defenderá el proyecto de ley del registro y ayudará a obtener apoyo para asegurarse de que aprueben el Senado? Gracias. God bless you.
My question is, if you're elected to the Senate, will you co-sponsor Senator Padilla's version of the registry bill? And how will you defend the registry bill and help gather support to make sure that it's approved by the Senate? God bless you.
Norma, thank you very much for the question, and Angelica, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for the extraordinary work that Chirla does. I will absolutely fight to get Senator Padilla's registry bill passed in the U.S. Senate. And I've been proud to support the House bill by Zoe Lofgren as well. We need to get this done. And Norma, first of all, I want to say God bless you for the work you do. I want to thank you for taking care of those beautiful children. I'm married. My wife is named Eve. We're Adam and Eve. And we have 2 beautiful children. And I want for the children that you're taking care of, for your family, for the families of all in California and all who come to this country, I want them to have the same opportunity as my 2 children. I want them to have access to good health care. I want them to get a good public education. I'm the product of public schools, so is my wife, so are our children. I want them to have every opportunity. I don't want anyone to be turned away from access to health care because they're afraid if they try to get access, they might be deported. I don't want anyone who seeks to get a better education to be denied that opportunity because of their status. And I want families reunited. I want you to be able to see your family. I want them to be able to come see you and be with you and you visit them. I want, in short, an immigration policy that is consistent with the values of our nation. Now, there's a lot of people who talk a good game in Congress, but don't deliver. And I have a history of taking on some of the biggest fights and getting the job done. I started out as a young prosecutor, and I prosecuted corporations for polluting, including a US company that was smuggling hazardous waste into Mexico and dumping it there and endangering people. And I convicted them. As a state senator, I fought for access to health care for everyone, and I authored California's Patient Bill of Rights. And in the Congress, I fought the Trump administration over its inhumane policies that separated children from their families. And when President Trump violated his oath of office, I impeached him. And I will take on anyone to get the job done. But I want to state a hard truth. And the hard truth is that when Democrats controlled the House and the Senate and the White House, we didn't get immigration reform passed. We didn't get it done. Now, I fought for it, Chirla fought for it, but we didn't get it done, and that has led to a humanitarian catastrophe. It has led to a situation where people are separated from their families and live in fear and aren't able to fully participate in the economy. And that's on my party, that we didn't get that done when we had the opportunity to do it. Now, I'm going to go to the Senate, and I am going to fight to get that done. I have a long record of getting things accomplished in the House that I want to bring to the Senate. Norma, I want you to be able to answer this question in this way in the future. When someone says to you, isn't it wonderful we have such a powerful champion of immigrants and migrants and immigration reform, I want you to be able to ask that person, do you mean Alex Padilla or do you mean Adam Schiff? That is my goal. Immigrants have so enriched this country in every way. Like so many millions of Americans, my great-grandparents and my grandfather came to this country also fleeing violence. And they made their homes here, and it's been a great country for my family. I want it to be a great country for everyone's family. I want everyone to have a path to citizenship. It's just not right in this country when you have farm workers working so hard to put food on our table that they can't afford food of their own. I want to be a senator for all Californians. I've been going up and down the state meeting with Latino leaders, Latino workers, Latino small business owners, immigrants, documented and undocumented. I want the American dream for all of those families. In the Senate, I'm going to fight for exactly that.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Norma, for your question and for all your work. Our next member is Irma Janeth, and she comes all the way from Hesperia in the San Bernardino County. Irma has been a member for 10 years. Welcome, Irma.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Irma Escobar. Tengo más de 30 años, al igual que mi esposo, viviendo aquí en California. Tengo 2 hijos ciudadanos. Mi hijo tiene 23 años, estudia en la universidad, y mi hija tiene 17 años y está a punto de graduarse de la preparatoria. Desde que mis hijos eran pequeños, mi esposo y yo nos hemos enfocado en enseñarles a nuestros hijos la importancia de la educación y de ser un buen ciudadano.
Good afternoon. My name is Irma Escobar, and I have lived in California for over 30 years, and so has my husband. I have 2 children who are citizens. My son is 23, and he's in college, and my daughter is 17. She's about to graduate from high school. Since my children were little, my husband and I have focused on teaching them the importance of education and being a good citizen.
Mi esposo es troquero y yo he trabajado de niñera, trabajadora doméstica, de limpieza. Trabajé para sacar el censo y he trabajado varias campañas electorales para sacar el voto. Tengo más de 20 años de voluntaria en mi comunidad, tanto en la iglesia como en las escuelas de mis hijos. Y tengo más de 10 años de voluntaria y activista con organizaciones pro inmigrantes como Chirla y el Fondo de Acción de Chirla, luchando por una reforma migratoria.
My husband is a trucker, and I have worked as a babysitter, house worker, cleaner, and I worked to get the census and have worked in several campaigns to get a vote out. I have been a volunteer in my community for more than 20 years, both at church and my children's school. I have been a volunteer and activist with pro-immigrant organizations like Chirla for more than 10 years, fighting for the immigration reform.
Mi esposo y yo hemos pagado impuestos desde que llegamos a este país y hemos sido personas con buen valor y buen comportamiento moral. Aún así, después de 30 años, no hemos podido ajustar nuestro estatus a pesar de las promesas que nos han hecho varias administraciones. Siempre hemos vivido con el miedo de una deportación, ya que por una mala práctica de inmigración por parte de un notario, mi esposo y yo terminamos en un proceso de deportación. Pero tenemos la esperanza de que pronto familias como la mía tendremos un camino hacia la ciudadanía.
My husband and I have paid taxes since we arrived in this country, and we're people with values and good moral standing. Still, over 30 years, we haven't been able to adjust our status despite the promises of several administrations have made to us. We've always lived with the fear of deportation because due to immigration malpractice from the notary, my husband and I ended up in the process of deportation. But we are hopeful that very soon families like mine will have a pathway to citizenship.
Voy a seguir luchando para que California siga siendo un estado justo y plenamente inclusivo de inmigrantes, y me gustaría contar con usted para lograrlo. Desde las pólizas y las derrotas políticas de los anti-inmigrantes de California, detrás de la Proposición 187 en la década de los 90, Chirla y sus aliados han trabajado incansablemente para convertir a California en un estado modelo pro-inmigrante.
I will continue to fight to make California a fair state, completely inclusive of immigrants. I would like to count on you to achieve that. Chirla and its allies have fought tirelessly against anti-immigrant policies and political defeats in California like Proposition 187 in the 1990s to make California a pro-immigrant model state.
¿Cómo es que usted define los valores de California y cómo esto incluye a los inmigrantes?
How do you define the values of California and how immigrants are included in them?
Irma, thank you for your question, and thank you for all that you're doing for your community. I wish that my colleagues in Congress could hear your statement today. I serve on the Judiciary Committee chaired by Jim Jordan, so please pray for me. And I hear the way so many of my Republican colleagues demonize immigrants, demonize migrants, to the point of dangerousness, and how they wish to characterize them as something less than human. How they would blame the whole fentanyl crisis on immigrants. It's shameful. And maybe if they spent more time understanding just who is coming to this country and the great value that they're adding, you would think they would understand already this country was built by immigrants. And we are indebted to our Native American brothers and sisters. But immigrants have come and enriched this country in innumerable ways, just as your family has, just as your children will do. You must be very proud of them. And I'm going to fight to make it possible for families like yours to live in the confidence of knowing that you are full participants in our society, that you're able to enjoy all the benefits of your hard work. You're paying into the system. You should be able to enjoy a secure retirement and access to quality health care. Your kids should have access to good education without incurring crushing debt. I'm supporting so many policies that I think are vitally important to millions of Latino families throughout California. I fought, for example, to more than double the child tax credit, which we did during the pandemic, and that single step lifted 40% of the kids who are living in poverty in this country out of poverty. That should tell us something. That should tell us that some of this is not rocket science. It is a simple matter of policy about how many families we're willing to allow to live in poverty. And when my Republican colleagues wouldn't allow that tax credit to be extended, millions fell right back into poverty. I want to lift up all of the families in California. I want to make sure that your kids and every child in this state, documented or undocumented, has access to a good education. My wife and I have been traveling up and down the state. We've been spending a lot of time in the Central Valley. Well, during the pandemic, the kids in my district, most of them, could Zoom into class and continue their education. But in the Central Valley of California, too many families, most Latino families, didn't have the same access to broadband that my constituents had. And for many of them, it meant that for a year and a half, they simply lost out on their education. That's not right. That's not fair. And it's not even something I can understand in a country as prosperous as the United States and a state as prosperous as California, one of the richest in the nation. I have used my perch as a senior member of the Judiciary Committee, which deals with immigration issues, to fight back, to use that bully pulpit to fight back against these malicious stereotypes of immigrants and migrants, to fight for sensible and comprehensive reform, to fight to update the registry program, and to fight to make it possible under the U.S. Citizenship Act to have a pathway for citizenship for 11 million people. We could do this, but the thing about Congress is no one can get something done as a single person. You have to be able to work with others. You have to be able to form coalitions to get things done. And there is room for bipartisanship on some of these answers. And I would hope on something like the Registry Act. But there are other things that we're going to have to do on our own. My party, as Democrats, are going to have to do on our own because the Republicans will simply not work with us. But we're going to have to use the political capital to get it done. And we haven't done that. And that's a shame on us. We should have gotten it done during the first year of the Biden administration. We should have gotten it done when President Obama was in office. And damn it, when I go to the U.S. Senate, I'm going to fight and finally get this done for you, for your family, and for millions of others throughout California and the country.
¿Puede describir dos formas en que tomará el liderazgo como nuestro próximo senador de California, trabajando juntamente con el senador Padilla para garantizar que el Senado trabaje para aprobar una legislación significativa que impulse un camino a la ciudadanía?
Can you describe two ways that you will lead as our next California senator, working alongside with Senator Padilla to ensure Congress works to pass meaningful legislation that advances the pathway to citizenship?
Because the Congress is a collaborative institution, or at least it should be, what it means is sitting down with Senator Padilla, who is the lead on this, and going over which senators are with us and which senators are against us, which are implacable foes, who can we win over, how do we make the case, how do we enlist the administration to use every bit of leverage, how do we find vehicles that are moving through the Congress and make sure this is one of them, how do we put together the kind of winning coalition that can get this done? And in the absence of that, how do we muscle it through on our own? What do we need to do every day to make the case? and not just educating our fellow senators, making the case to our fellow senators, but more importantly, perhaps making the case to the country. Too many members of the Congress are followers. They're not leaders. And if we're going to get them to move on immigration reform, we have to move the country so that they can follow the country. If they're not willing to lead, then we need to get them to follow what their constituents want, which means we need to make the case. Now, in the Judiciary Committee, for example, recently they tried to demonize migrants by suggesting that the whole fentanyl crisis was the result of migrants coming to this country. That's a lie. That's a horrible lie. And I fought against that in our committee. And I talked about the fact that most fentanyl coming to this country comes with U.S. citizens, and not between ports of entry, but at ports of entry. It means taking on these fights, taking on these bullies. I took on the biggest bully this country has ever seen in Donald Trump. Donald Trump, from the moment of his candidacy, when he painted immigrants as murderers and rapists, throughout the course of his presidency, when he denigrated people from other countries, I fought him every step of the way. While others stood on the sidelines, I was in the middle of the ring fighting him every step of the way. And I will take on whatever bullies get in the way of providing for all of our residents. Whatever bullies get in the way of providing meaningful and comprehensive immigration reform, providing an immigration policy that is consistent with our values. Over the last several years, we've discovered something we knew, I guess, in theory, but didn't really know in practice, and that is how much it mattered to have someone in the Oval Office of character and integrity. We knew it was important, but not until we had someone with no character and no integrity did we understand the consequence. We had a president for 4 years who appealed to the worst instincts in people, who made an argument to the country, a horrible and false argument, that the challenges that we were facing economically and otherwise were the fault of others. That kind of bigotry has no place in this country, no place in a nation that was built by immigrants. And we need to stand up forcefully to the mongers, the fear mongers, and the purveyors of hate. And we need to defend the wonderful, the beautiful, the incredible, the diverse people that are coming to this country, people like yourselves who have improved our communities and our families in every way. I want to be your champion in the Senate. I want to represent you and everyone in this Senate, everyone in this state. I want you to feel that my voice is your voice. And I will do everything I can to make that possible.
Thank you.
So now we're going to hear from Pedro Jr. Sr., who's from Los Angeles, a business owner from Los Angeles. Pedro Trujillo.
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Pedro Trujillo López. Llegué con mi familia a los Estados Unidos en el año 1995. Cuando llegué, mi hijo tenía 6 años, mi hija 3 años de edad. Llegamos a Los Ángeles y el primer trabajo que tuve fue en la industria de la costura. Es un trabajo muy difícil y me hacía cuestionar mi propósito de haber inmigrado a los Estados Unidos.
Good afternoon. My name is Pedro Trujillo Lopez. I arrived with my family in the United States in 1995. When I arrived, my son was 6 years old and my daughter was 3. We arrived in Los Angeles, and the first job I had was in the sewing industry. It was a difficult work, and it made me question my purpose for migrating to the United States.
Dadas las circunstancias, me hice el propósito de aprender el idioma inglés y a la vez todo lo relacionado con la industria de la costura para mejorar mi posición económica. Al aplicarme, ascendí a jefe de producción de una compañía de ropa, pero en el año 2008 la compañía quebró por la crisis financiera nacional. En ese tiempo, mi hijo había empezado la universidad y mi hija estaba en la preparatoria. Era necesario encontrar trabajo pronto, lo cual era muy difícil por la crisis económica. Eso me llevó a la decisión de crear mi propio trabajo, empezando un negocio de costura.
Given the circumstances, I made it my goal to learn English and everything related to the sewing industry to improve my financial situation. As I applied myself, I was promoted to chief of production in a garment company. But in 2008, the company went broke because of the national financial crisis. At the time, my son had started university and my daughter was in high school. I needed to find work soon, which was hard because of the economic crisis. That made me decide to create my own work. I started a sewing business.
Fue un poco difícil. Una, por ser indocumentado, y dos, por no tener experiencia en la creación de un negocio aquí en los Estados Unidos. Fueron muchos años de aprendizaje para llegar a este punto. He llegado a tener hasta 60 empleados antes de la pandemia. Y puedo decir orgullosamente que se les paga un salario arriba del mínimo que les permite vivir de una manera digna. Después de 26 años de vida indocumentado, este año pude hacerme residente condicional.
It was a bit hard at first because I was undocumented, and second, because I didn't have any experience in starting a business here in the United States. I spent many years learning to get to this point. I had up to 60 employees before the pandemic. I can proudly say that I pay them more than the minimum wage, which allows them to have a dignified lifestyle. After 26 years of being undocumented, this year I was able to become a conditional resident.
Mi esposa aún continúa sin documentos, mi hija está protegida por DACA y mi hijo es ciudadano naturalizado. Ahora estoy en el proceso de ayudar a uno de mis trabajadores a empezar su propio taller de costura. Creo que es importante compartir las experiencias y conocimientos adquiridos para nuevas generaciones de inmigrantes empresarios.
My wife is still undocumented. My daughter has DACA, and my son is a U.S. citizen. Right now, I'm in the process of helping one of my workers to start his own sewing workshop. I think it's important to share the experiences and knowledge one has acquired with the new generations of immigrant entrepreneurs.
Mr. Chef, undocumented immigrants sacrifice themselves for their families and the greater good during the COVID-19 pandemic. They also pay billions in local, states, and federal taxes. Each and every year, in California alone, USC estimates that this number is close to 4 billion used for local and state taxes. The UCLA Latino Policy and Politics Institute and the White House both agree providing permanent protection to these same immigrants could be even more beneficial to California and the country, adding over $1 trillion of the national gross domestic product over 10 years. My question is the following. What will you do to lift up the economic contribution of immigrants and use this as a moral and economic argument to push for registry and legalization? And how can the federal government better include immigrants in our healthcare, education, and housing sectors, ensuring inclusion regardless of immigration status?
Pedro, it's a pleasure to meet you, and congratulations on your phenomenal success and achievements. You are the American dream, and I love hearing stories like yours. I also was thinking back as you were describing your start in the garment industry to my father, who was also in the garment industry. When I was a kid, he was a traveling salesman. He sold clothes, and he made $18,000 a year. And on the strength of that single income of $18,000, my parents were able to buy our first home for $18,000. You can imagine how impossible that would be today. But my father had a lot of advantages that you didn't have. My father was documented. My father had no need to learn the language. And my father had other advantages of a family that could help him, well established here. My father's father was an immigrant, and I appreciate hearing your experience and all the challenges you've had to overcome. You're absolutely right. What you have done and what so many other immigrants have done is to contribute enormously to our economy. Latino small businesses are the fastest growing segment of small businesses in the country. That's fantastic. And when you consider all of the obstacles that Latino business members have had to overcome, obstacles sometimes of citizenship and obstacles involving access to capital, it's all the more remarkable what you have achieved. And I tell that story. First of all, I emphasize how having an immigration policy that is consistent with our values is a moral imperative. But to those who don't respond to the moral imperative, I make the economic argument. It's good for our economy. It uplifts us all. Immigrants have helped build this economy. And what's more, you pay into the system, you pay taxes. You should be able to draw Social Security. You should be able to draw unemployment when it's necessary. You pay into the social safety net, you should have access to it. And to relieve some of the burden of being a small business person and providing health care to your employees, we should have Medicare for all. We should have universal health care. It is intolerable to me that in a country as rich as this one, that whether you can have access to life-saving care depends on your ability to afford it or your citizenship status. That is intolerable. I remember rushing my daughter to the hospital when she was 5 and she was bleeding profusely, and I was scared to death. And I can't imagine being in a circumstance where I was afraid to bring my child to the hospital. Or maybe I couldn't afford to bring my child to the hospital. And if I don't want those circumstances for my kids, I don't want them for your kids either. I mentioned spending a lot of time in the Central Valley. If it were its own state, it would be the poorest state in the Union. There's poor access to broadband. Rural hospitals are shutting down because of environmental injustices. There's a whole generation of young people growing up with asthma. And thousands and thousands of people can't even drink their own water. That's not right. And I want to fight for those families in the Central Valley, Latino families who deserve better, who are putting food on our table. But small business people in Los Angeles or San Diego or San Francisco or anywhere else in the state who are contributing to our economy, I want to make sure that you can have access to help at the SBA, that we expand programs serving minority businesses at the SBA. That as I did for my own constituents during the pandemic, I was there to fight for Latino families in my district to make sure they could access PPP loans. I want to do that for the entire state. I met with a group of young people in Calexico who were told they needed to leave the Imperial Valley to get an education or if they wanted to get ahead. And they did leave, and they came back because they wanted to give back. A couple of them ran for office, others are starting businesses. They talked to me about the challenges they're facing. And these are the future. The people in this room, so many young people, you're the future. And I love your impatience. You're impatient in the best way. You have no patience for bigotry. You have no patience for hate. You have no patience for how we're destroying the planet. You have no patience for gun violence. And you have no patience for a country that is not living up to its values when it comes to our immigrants. And so, Pedro, I want to partner with you and the business community and find out, as I've been doing Latino roundtables, business roundtables around the state, what can I do as your senator to help your business succeed? What can I do as senator to help your family succeed? That's my commitment to you.
Thank you very much. Sí se puede, señores.
Sí se puede.
Gracias. Muchas gracias, Pedro. Thank you, Pedro. And I also...
Sí se puede. Sí se puede. Sí se puede.
Claro que
Sí
sí.
se puede.
Claro que sí se puede. And I just want to take an opportunity. You talked a lot about the Central Valley. We have a lot of people here from Tulare County, from Kern County. So make your voices heard from here from the Central Valley as you spoke with them. Congressman Schiff, our last question is going to be asked by Gian.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Gianfranco, nací en Perú. Tengo 4 meses de entrar aquí en los Estados Unidos. En Perú trabajé haciendo labor social durante la pandemia. Ayudaba a dar comida, a brindar comida, a preparar comida y recursos a 400 familias. Decidí salir de Perú porque sufrí amenazas. Primero sufrí amenaza a mi persona y luego a mi familia. Las amenazas eran muy fuertes y el hostigamiento hacia mí. En ese tiempo mi esposa estaba embarazada. Por eso tomamos la precaución de buscar asilo en un país. Quisimos llegar aquí a los Estados Unidos porque averiguamos que aquí se respetan las leyes, hay orden y donde hay mayor seguridad.
Good afternoon. My name is Gianfranco, and I was born in Peru. It had been 4 months since I had come to the United States. In Peru, I used to do social work. During the pandemic, I helped prepare food and resources for 400 families. I decided to leave Peru because I was threatened. At first, the threats and harassments were only against me, then against my family. At that time, my wife was pregnant, and we were cautious because the threats were very serious. That is when we had to make the decision to seek asylum in another country. We thought about it and decided to go to the United States. We wanted to go to the United States because we think that it is a place where laws are respected and where there is structure and safety.
El viaje de Perú a la frontera de México y Estados Unidos fue alrededor de 3 semanas. Tuvimos que caminar mucho, ya que no teníamos dinero para un taxi o un autobús. Llegamos a la frontera de Estados Unidos con $20 en el bolsillo. Migración detuvo a mi madre por 5 días, detuvo a mi esposa por 15 días y yo estuve 1 mes y medio mientras los agentes de migración revisaban si yo era elegible para pedir asilo. Mi hija nació aquí en los Estados Unidos. Por el estrés y el cansancio físico de mi esposa, desafortunadamente yo seguía en la detención de migración mientras que mi hija nació aquí.
The trip to Peru and the border between Mexico and the United States took about 3 weeks. We had to walk a lot, since we had no money for a taxi or a bus. We arrived at the border of the United States with only $20 in our pockets. Immigration detained my mother for 5 days. They detained my wife for 15 days. I was in detention centers for a month and a half while immigration agents reviewed our eligibility for asylum. My daughter was born here in the United States. Because my wife's stress and physical exhaustion, my daughter was born at 7 months. Unfortunately, I was still at the detention center when she was born.
Después de salir del centro de detención, tuve la oportunidad de reunirme con mi hija y mi esposa. Aunque no tengo familia en California, decidimos venir aquí porque había averiguado que era uno de los mejores estados del país, ya que aquí hay más oportunidades y escuchan a los inmigrantes. Mi meta es crecer como persona y ser útil para este país. Quiero contribuir en este estado y en este país.
After I left the detention center, I had the opportunity to get reunited with my daughter and wife. Even though I do not have any family here in California, we decided to come here because we had heard that it is one of the best states in the country, because there's plenty of opportunities and immigrants are heard. My goal is to grow as a person and to be useful to this country. I want to contribute to the state and the country.
El derecho a buscar asilo en los Estados Unidos es una base de legislación interna y de los compromisos internacionales, pero es restringido a diario. ¿Qué hará para revertir estas tendencias, incluso ayudando a financiar los esfuerzos de las comunidades locales para refugiar con dignidad?
My question is, the right to seek asylum in the United States is based on the internal legislation and international commitments, but it is restricted every day. What will you do to reverse this trend, even helping to fund the efforts of local communities like a Welcome with Dignity?
We can judge our country by how it treats those who are most vulnerable. And by that standard, we have done an abysmal job with people fleeing violence from other parts of the world. I'm heartbroken to hear what you and your family experienced. It is not consistent with our values as a nation. It shouldn't be. The fact that you were separated from other members of your family, that you were detained for so long, that you were not even able to be present for the birth of your child, is unconscionable. And it's horrifying. We have been the beneficiary throughout our history of people fleeing violence from every corner of the globe. And when people come here fleeing violence, they should be treated with dignity and respect and compassion. I'm saying, am I have to stop already? Oh my goodness. Okay, that was a short answer. Well, let me just wrap up quickly then. I think, first of all, what the Biden administration is doing in trying to make it criminal to enter this country between ports of entry when that may be the only option people have is wrong. And I've spoken out against it, and I will continue to speak out against it. We should welcome asylum seekers. You should not be detained. You should have the ability to work while your asylum claims are being adjudicated, and that process needs to work much better. And for those governors in states like Texas and Florida, shame on you. You should be sued, and if you're breaking law, you should be prosecuted. Human beings are not pawns to be treated as political tools by right-wing politicians. I will continue to defend asylum seekers, to fight for humane treatment of everyone coming to this country, to give you the opportunity to do the social work you did in Peru and which we desperately need here in the United States. And I will be your champion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chief. We're going to give you a chance to have your closing remarks, if you have anything else to add.
Angelica, I want to thank you for organizing this forum and for the incredible work that Chirla does. And I look forward to continuing to support your efforts to expand funding of your efforts. What you're doing is so critically important. For those of you that are here in this audience that are part of immigrant families or maybe undocumented, I want a pathway to citizenship for all of you. I want to make sure that you have every opportunity to continue to contribute to the beauty of this country. We are a beautiful country because we're a diverse country. Because people have come here from all over to better themselves and their families, to escape violence, to seek a better life, to seek freedom and opportunity. And we are a better country when we make that available to people. But most of all, when we respect the dignity of human beings, when we respect the ability of everyone to contribute to our society and our economy, that's when we're a better country. That's when we have better opportunity. That's when we uplift everyone. And so I thank you, all of you that are active with Chirla, for what you do. I thank all of you who have come to this country to make it a better place, because you have. And I will be so proud to partner side by side with Alex Padilla and fight and succeed in meaningful immigration reform so that families can be reunited and so that the dream and the promise of this country can continue for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, for all your efforts. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Muchas. We're almost almost at the end of our forum. We have one more very important candidate to hear from, Barbara Lee. Before we do that, we wanted to share a video about why, as the Chirla Action Fund, the work we do to make sure that California stays strong and stays pro-immigrant. Adelante with the video.
Mi nombre es Yajaira Valdovinos y llevo 20 años defendiendo mi California. Millones de personas vinimos a este estado buscando un futuro mejor. Ha sido un proyecto colectivo construido con mucho esfuerzo. Por eso, en mi California les damos a todos la vacuna contra el COVID-19 sin importar su situación migratoria. En mi California, la salud es un derecho humano, pero hoy todo lo que hemos logrado está en riesgo. Hay fuerzas antimigrantes que quieren quitarnos el futuro de nuestro estado. Quieren destruir mi California. Hoy entro al ring a animar a otros a votar contra este ataque. Súbete al ring conmigo. El gobernador Newsom está en nuestra esquina. ¿Ustedes están listos para votar? Porque defiendo mi California. Voten no.
This video was done as we fought against a recall effort, and we were very successful in making sure that we stood with a pro-immigrant governor and to continue to have a pro-immigrant state. Now I'm going to pass it over to Maria Ochoa to introduce our next candidate.
So our next candidate is Barbara Lee. She is a representative from the 12th district in California, which encompasses some cities in Alameda County. Let's welcome Barbara Lee. Very nice to meet you, Ms. Lee. Very nice to meet you.
Welcome. We're going to go ahead and start right away with a question being asked of you. You'll be given an opportunity to answer that question, and we will go from there. So our first question comes from Yajaira Valdovinos, who you saw in the video. Who you just saw in the video.
La quiero mirar de frente.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Yajaira Valdovinos. Soy natal de México. Mi esposo y yo vivimos en el Antílope Valley hace más de 20 años. Tengo 4 hijos, uno de 19, de 21, de 16 y la más pequeña de 10 años. Ellos son mi más grande tesoro y lo que más quiero en esta vida. Los 2 mayores de edad, estoy muy orgullosa porque ya votan. Los he inculcado a que hagan el voto. Y aunque nuestra familia es una familia mixta, estamos siempre luchando para que los demás voten.
So good afternoon. My name is Jahaira Valdovinos. I'm originally from Mexico, and my husband and I have lived in Antelope Valley for more than 20 years. I am 42 years old, and I'm a housekeeper. I perform essential work. I take care of the children and clean houses. I am a mother of 4 children who are my most precious blessings and joy. They are 21, 19, 16, and 10 years old. My husband and I are proud of the 2 oldest ones who will participate in the election and represent our immigrant family for a mixed status. I always encourage them to vote.
Soy un miembro en mi comunidad, en mi iglesia. Hago voluntariados en las escuelas de mis hijos y lo más importante, en mi comunidad soy una líder que invito a que voten. Soy miembro de Chirla Action Fund hace más de 7 años. Me involucré en la lucha por una legalización con camino a la ciudadanía. Yo anhelo que mi familia se sienta libre de vivir en este país, pero veo que el sueño se nos está yendo. Somos el sueño americano que aún no se ha cumplido, ni para mí ni para miles de familias que estamos en este país. El tiempo pasa y el anhelo se va cada día más. Mi esposo tiene más de 20 años que no mira a sus padres y anhelamos que él vaya a su país, que les dé un abrazo y los bese. Deseamos ver a nuestros hijos crecer en un hogar seguro aquí en California y en Estados Unidos. Tener la seguridad de que permanezcamos juntos para apoyarnos sin miedo a una deportación.
I am an active member of the community and of my church. I volunteer at my children's schools and mobilize my community to vote in the Antelope Valley. I have been a member of Chirla Action Fund for 7 years. I got involved with the fight for legalization with the Pathway for Citizenship. I long for my family to feel free to live here in the States. We are an American dream yet to be realized. My husband hasn't hugged his parents in more than 20 years. Time goes by with a desire to see them once again, to one day be able to kiss them. We wish to see our children grow up in our home here in California and to have the certainty that we will remain together to support each other without the fear of deportation.
Por esta razón, mi familia está comprometida a esta lucha de actualizar la fecha del registro para lograr un camino a la residencia permanente y en el futuro una ciudadanía. Somos millones de familias. Señora Lee, si usted resulta ganadora para representarnos como senadora de California, espero que usted lidere con urgencia, ya que millones de personas estamos siendo afectadas.
That is why my family is committed to fight this update to the date with the registry so that we can achieve the pathway for permanent residency and in the future citizenship. We are millions of family. Ms. Lee, if you're elected to represent us as Senator of California, I hope that you will lead us with urgency since millions of people are affected.
Señora Lee, actualmente usted es copatrocinadora del proyecto de ley de registro, que proporcionaría un cambio directo a la ciudadanía para personas como yo y como millones de personas más. También es importante notar que la propuesta no lastima a nuestra comunidad inmigrante.
Mrs. Lee, currently, you co-sponsor the registry bill, which would provide a direct pathway to citizenship for people like me and millions more. It's also important to note that the bill doesn't harm our immigrant community.
Mi pregunta es, si es elegida para el Senado, ¿copatrocinará la versión del Senado del proyecto de ley de registro del senador Padilla? Además, ¿cómo defenderá el proyecto de ley de registro y ayudará a obtener apoyo para asegurarse de que se apruebe el Senado?
My question is, if you're elected to the Senate, will you co-sponsor Senator Padilla's version of the registry bill? And how will you defend the registry bill and help gather support to make sure it's approved in the Senate?
Buenas tardes. Yo hablo español un poquito, pero ahora, por favor, inglés. Un poquito. I was born and raised in El Paso, Texas, in a border town. Thank you. Muchas gracias. It is very important for you to know that not just now, but for many years, I have fought for comprehensive immigration reform. Senator Padilla's bill, his registry bill, that will allow for 7 years, which is still a long time, but 7 years to become permanent residents or naturalized citizens, it makes sense to me. And it doesn't make sense for people to be in this country for years like yourself and years contributing to our economy, benefiting from California's beautiful state in terms of just the unity that we present to the rest of the world, and not be able to be the beneficiaries of your time here contributing to the state. And so yes, I support Senator Padilla's bill, but also I think his bill needs to get passed. And my background, I'm an organizer. I've been in the California legislature and now Congress, and I believe in coalition building. And I can put together on the outside with the Latino community and immigrant communities, the African American communities, and bring more people to put pressure on members of the Senate throughout the country. And I know how to do that. My record hopefully speaks for itself. Also, I think it's important that we end the filibuster, because that rule keeps us from moving forward in a progressive way for comprehensive immigration reform. And so I would do everything I could do in terms of who I know, how to put coalitions together, how to travel around the country to go to other members' districts to help make sure it gets passed. Finally, I'll just say I have worked with Republicans in the past. I worked with a Republican governor, Pete Wilson, against Proposition 187, which he put forth. I helped form coalitions with black and brown people. That was way back in the day. And so I certainly know how to work also with Republicans and Democrats to really get the job done, or to fight against Republicans if they're trying to defeat it. And so I look forward to working with you and Chirla to make sure that Senator Padilla's bill is passed. And by the way, I did go to San Fernando High School, the same high school that Senator Padilla attended a little bit before him. So thank you again.
Thank you. We're gonna talk more on immigration reform and justice. And so I now want to introduce Shantaya Jeans. And Shantaya was raised in the Central Valley, but is currently a student at UC Berkeley. Welcome.
Hi, welcome everyone. Bienvenidos a todos. My name is Shantaya Jeans, and I'm 19 years old. I'm a member of the California Dream Network and currently living in Berkeley, California, where I'm majoring in political science. Thank you. Growing up in California, I have lived through the highs and the lows of what it means to be a child of immigrants. One of the most painful and formative experiences of my life was my mom's deportation when I was 9 years old. Because of her deportation, my mom was absent from my life for over 3 years. Since my mother's return to the US, I've witnessed her difficult journey in trying to adjust her status. These experiences have shaped my world and views on what we call the immigration system of this country. On a state level, I have seen how much California has changed for the better since the end of Prop 187. The implementation of the California Dream Act changed the game for my family and friends who have been able to pursue higher education. AB 60 has also been monumental for undocumented people in California. The ability to obtain a driver's license has made physical, mental, and emotional impacts on my community. There is so much peace of mind when it comes to being able to drive legally and not carry the fear of being pulled over. Over the past 30 years, grassroots organizations like Chirla, Chirla Action Fund, and many others have worked tirelessly to get to where we are now. While we have been able to make incredible advancements in the state, we need to fight for more. For the next Senator of California, I am asking for a champion. A champion is someone that will fight for legalization until it's a reality. A champion is someone that will carry our struggle and be our voice in Washington, D.C. Californians need a senator that knows a person is so much more than a green card, visa, or piece of paper that says they're legal here. Someone who will show my community that making a difference is possible. So, Ms. Lee, since the policy and political defeats of California's anti-immigrants behind Proposition 187 in the 1990s, Chirla and allies have worked tirelessly to turn California into a role model pro-immigrant state. My question to you is, how do you define California values, and how do these include immigrants?
Thank you very much. Well, first I just have to say personally, go Bears. That's my alma mater. Go Bears. I think I'm probably the only candidate who went to public university in this campaign, but really good to see you. And California values really are defined, I think, for me as inclusivity, in justice, equity, but we also have to be practical and realistic and realize that underneath all of this, in terms of our values, there are forces in California who are pushing back on our anti-racist movements. When you look at what happened, for example, with the ending of then affirmative action, Proposition 209, that eliminated equality of opportunity for black and brown students at universities. That's not a California value, but there are pockets in California that believe that inclusivity and diversity should not be what we want. And so we have to fight against what we know is taking place in parts of California, but we have to put forth our values. And also our values are about unity. I mean, black and brown people needed to show the rest of the country, and I think we're doing that, how we work together, because we all have a common agenda and a common goal. That's to take care of our families, to live the California dream, and to make sure that immigrants are critical and part of that dream without any discrimination and without any bias against young people, and especially our dreamers. And finally, I'll just say it's very important that our values here in California reflect who you all are here today. This is a state that is a state with the majority of our population now minority residents. We have to have representation at all levels, and our values, I think, here in California insist that representation matters at all levels of government, in the public and in the private sector. In Washington, D.C., and I'm on the Appropriations Committee and the Budget Committee, and I see each and every day how Republicans try to defund what we have fought for here, and that's diversity, inclusion, equity. And so we have to fight against this, and we have to fight for what we know is right in terms of our values here in California. So we can't, I think, look at our state through rose-colored glasses, but we have to be proud of what we have done, proud of how immigrants have really built this state. But also we have to know that there are many threats against our values now, and so we have to be ready to fight like Chirla is fighting and like you're fighting. So thank you again.
And I'm so sorry, I have another question for you. Can you describe 2 ways you will lead as our next California senator, working alongside Senator Padilla to ensure Congress works to pass meaningful legislation that moves the needle on immigration?
I would, again, forming coalitions. And let me just tell you one thing. It is so important here in California that we work in coalitions, because unified, we're stronger than we are separated. And I will work with Senator Padilla to really broaden the base of support in the Senate and in our country for immigration reform. I will work to make sure that every single member of the Black community, for example, our clergy members, everyone who should be our allies are right there working on immigration reform. And the bills and the agenda of Senator Padilla, that's my agenda. Finally, I'll just say, I want to give you one example of how important this is to me. Again, being born and raised in an immigrant community. Several years ago, there were the bus rides of immigrant workers coming from all over the country into Washington, D.C. And it was really, some of you may remember that, a remarkable moment to have all of the immigrant workers coming into D.C. for fair wages and benefits, comprehensive immigration reform, Chirla's agenda. Well, I went to the Congressional Black Caucus, and I said, you know, this is the first time that I think we need to be public, that I think you have a moment to be public. And I went to John Lewis and said, we should welcome the immigrant workers who are coming on these buses. We should be part of that. And I got the entire Black Caucus to say, yes, this is very important. Let's stand with our immigrant workers. And John Lewis and I met the buses with the Black Caucus. So that's how we have to work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So now we have Angel. Angel is from Fullerton, California, and she's a member of the California Dream Network. She has the third question for you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angel Prajes. I am 23 years old, and I'm currently studying to obtain my master's in psychology from California State University, Fullerton. Last year, I attended a California Dream Network retreat and had the opportunity to learn about the registry. Through this meeting, I learned that between 7 to 8 million people could be eligible to legalize with this bill. The potential impact of the registry made such an impression on me that I spent my gap year leading workshops and teaching others about the bill. And during 2020, my family and I were directly affected by COVID-19. Like many people around the country, my mom lost her job, and it was devastating not knowing how we would pay rent, buy food, or pay our bills. The fear of living through COVID was also exacerbated by the uncertainty of my future. As the children of an undocumented parent at the time, we were not only worrying for ourselves, but also for them. As our parents age, our responsibilities grow because it's our turn to care and provide for them. How are we supposed to care for them when our legal status limits our ability to obtain jobs? How can I pursue my dreams when I have very real barriers holding me back? I'm working very hard to obtain my master's degree, but it's painful to know that when I graduate, I might not be able to exercise my degree. To me, the next senator of California needs to represent not only some of us, but all of us. As a Filipino American, representation matters to me because too often Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are left out of the conversation regarding immigration reform. We need a senator who will advocate for us from the beginning till the very end. Californians need a leader that recognizes the importance of this fight and will not waver on their promises. So Ms. Lee, undocumented immigrants sacrifice themselves for their families and the greater good during the COVID-19 pandemic. And they also pay billions in local, state, and federal taxes each and every year. In California alone, USC estimates that this number is close to $4 billion just for local and state taxes. The UCLA Latino Policy and Politics Institute and the White House both agree providing permanent protections for these same immigrants would be even more beneficial to California and the country, adding over $1 trillion to the gross domestic product over 10 years. So my question is the following. What will you do to lift up the economic contributions of immigrants and use these as a moral and economic argument to push for registry and legalization? And how can the federal government better include immigrants in our healthcare, education, and housing sectors, ensuring inclusion regardless of immigration status?
Thank you very much for that question. And let me just say to you how remarkable you are listening to you, knowing that you majored in psychology. My background, I majored in psychology, and then I have my master's of social work. And you know, community mental health, right? Mental health is so important. culturally, linguistically appropriate mental health is extremely important, especially in this day and time. So I'm really proud of you. And hopefully we will get this job done so that you and your family don't have to go through what you have been through. Couple of things, let me just mention. First of all, I am a member of the Asian Pacific American Caucus, and with our great warrior, Congresswoman Judy Chu, who chairs it. And I have, give Congresswoman Chu a round of applause. And I have chaired the Health Task Force, co-chaired the Health Task Force for about 10 years. And I am the author of the Health Equity and Accountability Act, which the Tri-Caucus, which I helped formed, is the Asian Pacific American Caucus, the Hispanic Caucus, and the Black Caucus. Every year we take the lead, so this is KPAC's year. So I work very closely on health care for Black and brown people, for communities of color, for vulnerable populations. So a couple of things I want to remind you or mention to you during COVID, for example. Black and brown communities, especially in the API community, Black community, Latino community, Native American community, were dying disproportionately from COVID. And so as a result of that, my work on the Appropriations Committee, I put together a team of people with all of our caucuses and fought and got billions of dollars for community clinics in the Latino community, for community clinics in the API community and Black community and the Native American communities. And we would not have been able to do that had I not worked with our coalitions and our allies to be able to get that done. And so it's important for me as a representative now and in the Senate to work together with people because we all have issues and challenges, of course, in a state that is such an expensive state, and we need to have the federal government invest in our communities. Also, it's important for us to recognize, and I have sponsored every bill as it relates to pathway to citizenship for our DREAMer participants. And I want to mention one effort that has just taken place so you get a sense of these Republicans and what's going on. Do you know we have the opportunity to pay interns? You could be a paid intern in my office, for example, but they won't allow undocumented young people to do that. So we fought to try to get an amendment, change a bill in the Appropriations Committee that would pay you to be able to work in a congressional office. That makes sense, right? We need your brilliance, your input, and this is a place to learn how to negotiate and be a public official if that's your decision. With a psychology background, that's very important. But the Republicans would not support that. That's just an example of why we have to win next year. And so it's important that you know that I am going to continue to fight, like I have all of my life, for immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform, and for ensuring that every single benefit that this country provides for citizens are provided for those who are non-citizens but who have come here and made this country what it is, and especially our state of California. So thank you. We have legislation, and I won't go through all the legislation right now, but one bill, the Embrace Act, by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, we have legislation now that would provide for the same benefits for undocumented citizens. I call everyone undocumented. No one's illegal to me. Everyone should be citizens who are here working, and this would provide the investments in all of the efforts that anyone here in California so deserves, whether documented or not. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
So now we have again Mr. Gianfranco, who has another question for Ms. Lee.
And I just want to say thank you, Gian. He's been sharing his story, and I know sometimes it's hard when you share your story over and over again in terms of what you've gone through. Nomás darle las gracias por contar su historia una y otra vez, considerando que tan difícil ha sido la situación.
That's also his commitment, right?
Y su
Okay.
compromiso.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Gianfranco, nací en Perú, tengo 4 meses de entrar en los Estados Unidos. En Perú trabajaba haciendo labor social. Durante la pandemia ayudaba a preparar comida y recursos para 400 personas. Decidí salir de Perú porque sufrí amenazas. Primero sufrí amenazas y hostigamientos hacia mí y luego hacia mi familia. En ese tiempo mi esposa estaba embarazada y por eso tomamos precaución, ya que las amenazas eran muy fuertes. Ahí es cuando tuvimos que tomar la decisión de buscar asilo en otro país. Lo pensamos muy bien y decidimos ir a Estados Unidos. Quisimos llegar aquí a los Estados Unidos porque es un lugar donde se respetan las leyes, donde hay orden y donde hay más seguridad.
So good afternoon. My name is Gianno Franco, and I was born in Peru. It has been 4 months since I came here to the United States. In Peru, I used to work in social work. During the pandemic, I helped prepare food and resources for over 400 families. I decided to leave Peru because I was threatened. At first, the threats and harassments were only against me, then against my family. At the time, my wife was pregnant, and we were cautious because the threats were very serious. That is when we had to make a decision to seek asylum in another country. We thought about it and decided to go to the United States. We wanted to go to the United States because we think that it is a place where laws are respected and where there is structure and safety.
El viaje de Perú a la frontera de México y Estados Unidos fue de alrededor 3 semanas. Tuvimos que caminar mucho, ya que no teníamos dinero para un taxi o autobús. Llegamos a la frontera de los Estados Unidos con solo $20 en el bolsillo. Inmigración detuvo a mi madre por 5 días y detuvieron a mi esposa por 15 días. A mí me tuvieron en centro de detención por 1 mes y medio, mientras los agentes de inmigración revisaban si era elegible para pedir asilo. Mi hija nació aquí en los Estados Unidos. Por el estrés y cansancio físico de mi esposa, mi hija nació a los 7 meses. Desafortunadamente, yo seguía en el centro de detención cuando ella nació.
The trip from Peru to the border of the United States, between Mexico and the United States, took about 3 weeks. We had to walk a lot since we had no money for a taxi or a bus. We arrived at the border of the United States with only $20 in our pockets. Immigration detained my mother for 5 days. They detained my wife for 15 days. I was in the detention centers for a month and a half while immigration agents reviewed our eligibility for asylum. My daughter was born here in the United States. Because of my wife's stress and physical exhaustion, my daughter was born at 7 months. Unfortunately, I was still at the detention center when she was born.
Después de salir del centro de detención, tuve la oportunidad de reunirme con mi hija y mi esposa. Aunque no tengo familia en California, decidimos venir aquí porque había averiguado que es uno de los mejores estados del país, ya que hay más oportunidades y escuchan a los inmigrantes. Mi meta es crecer como persona y ser útil para este país. Quiero contribuir a este estado y al país.
After I left the detention center, I had the opportunity to get reunited with my daughter and wife. Even though I do not have any family here in California, we decided to come here because we had heard that it is one of the best states in the country, because there are plenty of opportunities and immigrants are heard. My goal is to grow as a person and to be useful to this country. I want to contribute to the state and to the country.
Pregunta es, ¿el derecho a buscar asilo en los Estados Unidos es una base de la legislación interna y de los compromisos internacionales, pero es restringido a diario? La segunda pregunta es, ¿qué hará para revertir esta tendencia, incluso ayudando a financiar los esfuerzos de las comunidades locales para refugiar con dignidad?
Question. The right to seek the asylum in the United States is based on the internal legislation and international commitments, but it is restricted every day. What will you do to reverse this trend, even helping fund the efforts of local communities like Welcome with Dignity?
First, thank you for coming to America. Thank you for bringing your family. I'm very sorry you have to go through what you're going through and what you've been through. But hopefully, moving forward, you will be able to achieve all of the dreams that you have for your family, if in fact we do what is right. A couple of things. First, going back a bit to the Donald Trump administration. Are you interpreting? Okay. I visited these detention centers where Donald Trump was separating children from their families. I went to McClellan, Texas, San Antonio, Juarez, Homestead, which I was able to get shut down in Florida. And I witnessed some of the worst policies of immigration that any country could ever impose on people. I saw children and parents which were divided. Some of the parents were put in prison uniforms. Children were sleeping under, looked like aluminum, it's mylar blankets. And it was a moral disgrace. So I have been fighting first to reunify families, for legal services for immigrants as they come to America, but also for counseling and trauma, because people, you went through a lot. So you should have access to trauma-informed care, and your children should also. We can't forget the stress and the mental health issues that people have as a result of coming to this state and this country. I don't support the asylum policies currently. A lot of the policies right now in immigration are left over from the Trump administration. And I have voiced my opposition to those policies. You should be able to, an immigrant should be able to go through the normal, regular asylum process, not have to worry about having the paperwork and all of the requirements conducted in another country. That's wrong. And you should be able to come to California and settle and continue to make sure that you are able to take care of your family. I am a former small business owner also. And I come from a city, a sanctuary city, Oakland, California, where we have many immigrants. 33% of my constituents come from another country. We just celebrated Dias de los Muertos last week. And and it reminded me of the entrepreneur spirit and the ability to come into my community where I represent and other communities in California and benefit from immigrants and people who have come here for a better life. And so you have my commitment that if elected to the Senate, and I say when elected to the Senate, I want to work with everyone to make sure that, of course, Senator Padilla's bill, the 7-year bill, registry bill is passed, but also making sure that until full citizenship is attained, that the investments such as healthcare and housing and good schools and all of the support that you deserve are available to you, whether you have achieved citizenship or not. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, we conclude the last question, and we want to say thank you to you for being here and joining us today and having this conversation. And I heard somebody from Oakland. You can scream a little bit louder. Some folks from Oakland here too. I just want to say, this is your time, your closing remarks as you address both the people here in the audience, but also all the folks who are viewing and listening to us via our live stream, both through the Chirla Action Fund webpage and also through Entravision, the Entravision system.
Well, First, thank you. Muchas gracias. It's been really a wonderful meeting. Early on, I was very proud to have the endorsement of Cesar Chavez when I first ran for the California Assembly, and he taught me a lot about immigration and the struggles of farm workers. Secondly, I want you to know that healthcare, housing, a good education, reproductive justice, the right to make one's own decisions about their own bodies, right? All of these are freedoms that we need to keep in mind as we fight here in California for elected officials who are going to protect your freedom, because freedom is not only about Donald Trump and what he's trying to do to this country. You deserve economic freedom and justice, healthcare freedom and justice. You deserve to be free to make sure that your children have the quality education that they so deserve, and we need more Latino teachers in the schools here in California. That's something that's so important. We need health care, Medicare for all. I was the first, before any of these candidates that we're running in this race, I was the first one to sign on to Medicare for all. I fought for single payer when I was in the legislature. And I'm a member of the Medicare caucus. There's not a Medicare caucus in the Senate, and I'm going to establish a sister caucus in the United States Senate so we can get Medicare for all passed in the Senate. And I don't want to forget our African and Black immigrants, because immigrants from Haiti, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Black Alliance for Immigration Justice, extremely important. So how do we get the work done that we all want to do together? We have to be unified, and we have to be inclusive, and we have to say, "Si se puede."
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. And with that, we have concluded our conversations with Katie Porter, Adam Schiff, and Barbara Lee. Thank you, each and every one of you who asked a question. Let's give them a big round of applause for representing us today. You are courageous in sharing your story and lifting up the realities of our communities are facing. And so we see ourselves in their stories and in their experiences, and they shared that with us. So just one more time, a big round of applause. We say thank you to the candidates, and I also want to say thank you, Maria Paola Ochoa, for being here and standing with us in this important space. So I know we have some work to do, right? We have to, it only starts here, 1 year from the election.
Oh yes, of course. As media, we have a big work to do in informing what's right and educating the public of the rights they have to vote, but also the people who doesn't have the ability to vote, to help others in motivating them and encouraging them to go to the polls and vote for them. You know, you can become the voice of those. I'm sorry, but me hago bolas en inglés. Ustedes hablan todos en español.
En español.
Muchos de ustedes yo sé que no pueden votar, pero ustedes tienen ese poder de superhéroes, como viene ese video, porque de verdad que todos son superhéroes, en salir y motivar y presionar para los que sí pueden votar, lo hagan por ustedes. You know, ustedes dos son los que no tienen la voz, pero ustedes pueden ser la voz detrás de los que sí pueden votar. Entonces, las historias de ustedes son inspiradoras, de verdad que son inspiradoras. Yo los escucho hablar y yo a veces digo, ¿cómo pueden trabajar tanto tiempo bajo las sombras, lejos de sus familias, sacrificando tantas cosas? La historia de Jan es impresionante, no poder estar ahí en el momento en que nació sus hijos. Muchos de ustedes los tienen que dejar chiquitos en sus países para venir a trabajar tan duro y poderlos sacar adelante allá. La verdad que Yo llevo más de 20 años escuchando historias de inmigrantes que me inspiran y para mí son los verdaderos héroes en los Estados Unidos. Y yo sé que no pueden, quizá, pero con el voto de otros, quizá en un futuro por fin puedan ganarse ese derecho a votar y ser ustedes los que vayan a las urnas y elijan a las personas que ustedes consideran que se merecen, porque al final del día ellos también son los líderes suyos, aunque no puedan votar muchos. De verdad que con todo el corazón se los digo.
Muchas gracias. Una vez más para Entravision, que ha sido un excelente, ha trabajado con nosotros de una manera excelente para tener este foro, que podamos tenerlo y que lo podamos experimentar así aquí en vivo, pero también que muchas de ustedes lo están mirando en sus casas a través de todo nuestro live stream. So let's remember Election Day. There are several important dates that we need to note. In March of 2024, that's when the primary happens. That means that the 3 candidates that were here, that's when you get to decide amongst those 3 who we support. And then the other important date is a year from now, November 2024, which is Election Day. And we are all going to get out the vote. We are engaging and moving forward in order for us to make sure that the voices of our communities are heard. And so we also ask you to please share this important conversation. Share it on Facebook, share it on Instagram, share it in every social media platform so that our community can hear directly from the candidates and what they propose for our community. And so now what I also want to say is thank you. And I want to bring over our, a couple of our folks who were our leadership team here to make this happen. So I just really want to say thank you to Fatima Flores Lagunas, our political director. I want to make sure that our civic engagement team stands up. I also want to say thank you to Arely Hernandez, who is and all of the making sure that this happened. Our Director of Policy and Advocacy, Gloria Cruz, who's here. I also want to say, and Pedro, who you have been seeing up here, we have our Chirla Action Fund board members. I want them to come up so that they are recognized as well. And I give them a big shout out, but I want to make sure that our Director of Communications, Jorge Mario Cabrera, like I said again, our Director, Pedro Trujillo from organizing is over there. You can come on over here. We've been doing...
Our Director of Marketing, Luis Tadeo, who's in the sound booth.
Yes.
And we really want to thank the Santa Clarita Center for Performing Arts for hosting us, their staff, Stephanie Rush, Cody Holmes, Scott Weber, Will Mercer, Brody Steele, and the amazing Michelle Wall, who made all of this possible, helping us get this room. And our production team, who is here with us, Amaury, Felipe, Miguel, and Joey, who is allowing you to see us on live stream. So thank you, production team, as well.
Thank you. And I wish we could turn the camera out to our members because nothing happens without our members. Y quiero darle profundo agradecimiento a todos nuestros miembros. Nada pasa en Chirla or Chirla Action Fund sin nuestros miembros. Ustedes son el corazón que palpita por la justicia y que lucha día tras día por la justicia. Así que cada uno de ustedes por hacer el sacrificio de estar aquí, muchas, muchas gracias. Y con eso hemos concluido. With that, we conclude our forum. ¿Se puede? Sí, se puede. ¿Quiénes somos?
Somos Chirla Action Fund.
¿Quiénes somos?
Chirla Action Fund.
Muchas gracias.
Yes. Vamos a tomar... Jamás será vencido. ¡Woo! Antes de que nos vayamos, vamos a tomar una foto. Si por favor se pueden esperar, vamos a tener a alguien que va a tomar una foto del espacio. Before everybody leaves, if you can hang back. We are going to take a picture from this way to look at you guys, okay?
Because you guys are the most important people.
100%.
Ustedes son la audiencia, es lo más,
Okay.
lo más importante. Felipe.
Great job, great job.
Oh, I didn't mention you.
escriba tu nombre en la arena blanca con fondo azul. Cuando mire el cielo en la forma cruel de una nube gris, aparezcas tú. Una tarde subo una alta loma, mire el pasado, sabrás que no te he olvidado.